Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or good morning, or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. My name is Charles, or Chaz, or Yazik, or the DM, or the Bard. Excuse me, however you may know me. And this is the 81st of hopefully many episodes of bardadvice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash nerd-centric podcast where I do my best to answer any questions that you might submit. As we like to do at the beginning of all of our episodes is remind everyone, of course, of the email address for the show, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. Please send in questions, concerns, critiques, complaints, criticisms, stories, follow-ups, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get yourself some merch, you can do so over at manschwartz.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Also, we've got the dice over at krakendice.com. And just remind everybody again that oh, whoops, that's the wrong thing. That's a different thing, dude. Hold on a second. Sorry, folks. There's what we need to see. That's a different thing we're going to talk about in a second. But these are the dice, Florida Man dice. They are now available at krakendice.com, so get yourself a set. I think it's probably my favorite of the four. The Sarah dice are admittedly great, and I like all of them, but these are probably my favorites. I was happiest with the design and how they turned out, and the bags and the cards are cool and stuff. So go check those out over at krakendice.com and get yourself a set. So that's what we would like to do at the beginning. Oh, yes, and thank you, River, in the chat. Please don't forget to join the Discord if you'd like to. There's a link to it there. And also I'd like to, as we do, thank the patrons, members, super chatters. Remind everybody to please like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms. So that's all of the general housekeeping stuff. Glad to see everybody here, all of the regulars. Hope you're all doing well and having a good week and beginning to your weekend, depending on when your weekend is, I suppose. For Art Corner this week, I have two items that I wanted to touch on. The first of which is that a guy that I worked with, and you might remember, let me pull this up so that I can... Yeah, so actually, you might remember I said a few episodes ago that I'd produced this single with this guy Eric Veta called Rollin' Nat 20s. It was a lot of fun to do. Somebody tagged me on a post of his on TikTok, and we kind of linked up. And as a result, I just wanted to let everybody be aware that he's consistently producing music. In fact, he just released a 4-song EP called Gnomes and Knights. So I've put his link tree in the description of this video, so you can go check out all of his stuff. He's got music on Spotify. He's doing the TikTok thing. And in addition to that, the thing that everybody kind of saw earlier before they were technically supposed to, see, these got inverted somehow. That's the problem. So this is what will likely end up being the album cover, or at least sort of a kind of a logo for the project that we're working on called VanBard. It is a collaborative effort between myself and my buddy Sung that I produced the Math Lord album with, as well as Eric Veta and another gentleman named Cody, who is kind of got tremendous pipes, so he'll be contributing to the project vocally. But we're going to be essentially making this as something that people can listen to or play during their D&D games. We likely will release it. We were discussing releasing it as sort of kind of a double album with just there being the songs on 20 songs basically, and then also the instrumental versions of those. And they'll all be kind of themed around D&D, TTRPG type stuff. So it'll be pretty cool to get that out, as soon as we're able to. We're kind of just taking our time and having fun with it, but it's been really cool, and we've got I think some great ideas for it. We're going to be putting that together in the next coming months. So, okay. So I think that's Art Corner. That's all of that stuff and all of the housekeeping stuff. So we'll get into some questions this evening. Also, as just a note before we get into it, this is a Chris episode. All of the questions are Chris. Part of it was just out of convenience and being able to put it together. Part of it was I don't know how many questions that I had that would be available, but Chris always sends in lots of questions, and So we've got 7 questions. 6 of them are from a Chris, and then one of them is from a different Chris. So it's another Chris-centric episode. But I appreciate it because those questions kind of keep this thing going. So instrumentals for that on SoundCloud would be appreciated, as Discord doesn't allow YouTube music anymore. What do you mean by Discord not allowing YouTube music? Not sure what you mean. It's probably like a CYA thing on them for copyright, because all of the stuff going on with like UMG going after the AI music. Okay, so let's get into it. So we do have questions. The first question is from Chris, or Pirate, and let me see. I need to, sorry gang, I'm distracted myself with Windows. I need to close this. Okay, that is much better. All right, so now we're back in here. We can go to the question. So the first question is from Pirate, and he asks, "Hey Chaz, it's Pirate. So the Paladin is getting seriously nerfed in the latest edition of D&D. The biggest change is not the fact that they get spells starting at level 1 now, but rather the change to Divine Smite. Divine Smite is no longer a class feature, but a spell that you can cast at level 1 as a bonus action. Because of this, you can no longer use your bonus action to cast Thunderous Strike and stack Divine Smite on top. It also means that you can no longer smite and then cast a spell like Compel Duel, because both now require a bonus action. This nerf also means Smite is no longer just a Paladin thing, because you don't need to multiclass to pick it up. Simply pick up Magic Initiate and get it as your first spell. It also means that Divine Smite can be counterspelled, or an Archmage Trickster could steal it from you and smite you on their next turn. With the background information out of the way, do you think that this nerf was necessary, or should Hasbro have just left it alone? Also, what is your opinion on the most unnecessary nerf that D&D has made?" Wow, thank you very much for the question, Pirate. I did give this some thought, and it just occurs to me as I reread the question that I don't think that I answered what was the most unnecessary D&D nerf, but I think I know the answer to it. We'll just get there when we do. So feel free to voice your opinions on it in the comments, or in the chat rather, as to your thoughts on the Paladin. I wrote some things about it. It sounds like somebody at Hasbro, or sounds like someone, I don't know what this is. So, sounds like Hasbro should have just left it alone, but I take less issue with them turning it into a bonus action and more issue with them making it a spell as part of a list. Making it a bonus action really just kind of like specifically affects those examples that you mentioned, and I'm sure as a Paladin main it's probably really, really annoying, but I think that the bigger problem that I have with it, what annoys me, is that by making it a spell, to your point about just like Magic Initiate, it makes it a thing that anybody could just take or use, which kind of cheapens the idea of it being a Paladin thing. Because for me, I feel like every class should be able to do something that no other class can do. So, because otherwise, then what's the point of picking a class? And honestly, it kind of feels like D&D has been going in that direction for a while, even with like 5e, with stuff like Eldritch Knights. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to do that, I guess. I mean, I guess you could do it in 3.5 with the right build and the right, like, prestige classes or multi-classes, but they just plug you right into it now, where it's just like, oh, you're a bard? Oh, that's fine. You can act as a fighter. And it's like, okay, well, that seems kind of weird. As for the biggest and worst nerfing that D&D made that was unnecessary, I actually had an answer for this when I was reading this email initially, but now I can't think of what it is. Probably has something to do with, I don't know. I can't think of it right now, but I will think of it. I'm sure that there is something. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of silly to make it a spell. Obviously, it's going to annoy people that like Paladins, because they're likely aware of all of the things that you mentioned. But yes, thank you. That's a great idea. We should do it as a follow-up, because I should probably go and research at least all of the updates and changes to the new classes, and it'll probably what'll likely happen is that immediately after the show it'll come to me. So I'll probably just post something about it in the Discord. But we can also do it as a follow-up. Yeah, send me a follow-up and we'll talk about it. But yeah, sorry to hear that, man. That's not the greatest. I think they were trying to do away with multi-classing. Yeah, probably. And I assume I can see kind of the value in that of just like streamlining everything, right? That was kind of the idea with 5e in the first place. At least that's how I saw it. It's the same kind of thing with advantage and disadvantage, right? Like instead of worrying about bonuses or minuses or excuse me, I don't know what's going on. Got a tickle. So just one moment. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. I had to get some water. I don't know what's going on there. So yes, Discord. There's another link for the Discord in there. But yeah, they were kind of trying to streamline everything and just like, oh, we'll just do this. And at least for me, part of the real fun with 3.5 back in the day was that, you know, you had your base classes that you started with, but then you had all these other books that you could kind of peruse through and see like, oh, wait a minute, what's this? This is a multi-class from the Complete Champion. And as long as I meet the prerequisites for it, then I get all of this extra stuff. It's just like they've compressed a lot of that into just like, you know, basic pathways for each class, which is like, I don't know. But I'm the kind of person as well that if I play, I'd prefer playing 3.5. So maybe that'll be the next one that we play. But I think there's an answer there for you. And yeah, like I said, we'll do a follow up on the nerfing thing because I really genuinely had an answer for this. I just can't think of it at the moment. Paladins are walking tanks that could heal and then nuke single targets. Of all things, they've changed the Paladin is fine. Ranger got screwed over royally. Well, I think that the Ranger has kind of gotten screwed over for a number of years. Oh, that's what it is. Thanks, River. That was the thing that I think is the biggest nerf, is taking away familiars. Particularly from Rangers. Do Druids still get companions? Companion's a better way of saying it. Because I feel like there were a few spellcasters, if not all of them, in 3.5 that got familiars, right? Where that was something that was like real simple, like a crow or a rat. But Druids and Rangers got companions that they could use as tanks because they had like telepathic links with their companions. So as a Ranger, you could have a wolf. That's a thing. That's a thing that is the biggest nerf. Is that they took away the companions. And just Rangers in general, I don't know, just seem that, you know, they're just not what they once were back in ye old times, I guess. So there you go. We don't even have to do a follow-up now. I thought of it. Other unnecessary nerf. All subclasses move to level 3 now rather than some classes getting them at 1 and 2. Yeah, that is a little frustrating too because do fighters still get action surge at level 2? Because one of the cool things about being a fighter in 3.5 is that you got extra feats. And so you would get, if you were a human fighter, you would get first level feat, you'd get creation feat, and then you'd get another feat at second level. And then you'd get 2 feats at level 4, right? Because everybody gets 1 at 4. And then you get an extra. I don't totally remember the mechanics of it, but I know that there's definitely value into getting something early, especially if you're starting at like level 3 or 4. You'd kind of want to have a couple of levels in whatever your speciality is. Sorcerers and wizards get familiars, druids and rangers get companions. Yes. And I don't think that either rangers or druids get companions in 5e. Maybe druids do. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah, that seems like a big drop-off. All right, let's move on. I don't want to spend too long rambling about one question. Thank you, Pirate. The next question is from Chris, and all questions heretofore for this episode are from Chris. But let's get into it. Chris asks, considering modern tabletop games have been around for 140 years, if you had to pick one invention that has improved gaming the most, which would it be? Thank you for the question, Chris. The internet, and it's not close. I was recently talking to my friend Alex about the new college football game. And I don't know if anybody knows or if anybody's playing it. College football. They made college football up until like 2014, and then there were issues with likeness and students being paid for such, and so there was kind of a gap of 10 years where they didn't produce any college football games. And they figured out the likeness and stuff, and they figured out all of the legal mumbo jumbo surrounding it, and so they're able to make a game now. So they've made College Football 25, and it's been out for a while. People have been online complaining about it, about like little bugs and issues that need to be fixed. And I had this like starting to get older moment. This is like an old man moment where I was like, these kids don't know how good they've got it, because I imagine a lot of these bugs and issues are going to be fixed with updates that are in the coming months, right? Like by the end of the year, it'll probably be a pretty finished game. And we've also seen this with stuff like Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky and stuff, right? Where it's like it comes out and then it's like, this game isn't finished. But because of the internet, they're just able to finish it and then just patch it to you in an update. When I was a kid, if a game had bugs, it just had bugs. That's what it was. And, if you spent $50, $60 on a new game and there was an issue, then there was just an issue. You could wait for the next version of a different game or get a different game, but there wasn't any kind of redemption for a bad game before the internet. So they had huge resurgences. They were busted and then released and later fixed. And by the way, I'm going to mention tabletop in a second, but I kind of started on a tangent of video games and seeing it through that lens. Not to mention online play, just in general. Being able to play your favorite games with your friends from anywhere in the world changed everything. It helped create the entire competitive gaming scene. But not just video games. We all know that one of the more challenging obstacles in playing D&D is scheduling. So when you're able to play your campaign from the comfort of your own home, and everybody can kind of like log in and do it, it's a much easier thing to do. Obviously, we all know that there are benefits to playing in person and the reality of like throwing dice and minis and all of the fun tactile stuff. But from a convenience standpoint, online play and things like Roll20 and really any kind of VTT offer players the agency to control that scheduling issue more, because we know that as a D&D player, you know that probably the biggest bear, the biggest obstacle is just scheduling, because adults and life. And so it's kind of an ask to ask a group of 6 or 7 people with different schedules and different lives to come together, and doing that online is a lot easier. It also, I think, online with virtual tabletops and stuff, gives a lot more capability in a different kind of immersive experience. Like, I personally like Roll20, at least for its visual, being able to see, because, in most games that I've played, we're not really big on maps as much as it's usually been theater of the mind with both of the 2 DMs that I've had. And that's not a dig on them at all. It's just that's how we play. We're not as big on like the maps and minis and stuff. I guess we are here and there. I don't know. But I just mean that it's a lot easier to be represented visually online and just kind of move your token around. And I don't know. I think that's cooler. Gonna catch this on the podcast instead. Got a work trip. Thanks in advance for making it southwise. Oh, well, thank you, Trevor. Appreciate the contribution there. It's very kind of you. But yeah, all right, let me see what chat's saying while I was just like rambling. Gonna watch found a workaround, or you didn't play the game. Yeah. I also remember having to wait for new versions of games to be put out. It's one of the things that got me to the habit of waiting until well after release. But yeah, and hey, Flint, I'm on that tip with 2K. That's what I do with 2K, is because 2K has just been, if you think Madden is bad as just like a remake of last year's game, 2K is so egregious with it. And you literally are just paying for the roster, because it just everything about it just gets either stays the same or gets worse. every iteration. And so what I'll typically do is 2K will come out in like September or October, and I'll buy it in like February for $9, because by that point the reviews will be so bad that it'll have gone down in price. It's silly, you know, if they would just make a good game, but what are you going to do? But for them, they can, you know, that's allowed them to kind of, studios can get away, I guess, now, more so with releasing like unfinished games. That's what I think is so funny. These kids are like, oh, yeah, there's bugs. It's like, dude, they'll be fixed in a week. They'll patch them next week. It's not like, you know, getting stuck in a game and then the code is just frozen that way and you just got to deal with it. FIFA games. Yeah, a lot of the sports games are that way. I'm in an online play-by-post with a GM on the left coast, players in Europe and Asia. That's cool. None of your players are in the same state, so online makes it possible. Yeah. Just think, folks. Just think of how many people now are able to play D&D that weren't able to play it before the internet was like more of a popular thing. So I think overall it's good for TTRPGs and just gaming in general. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, Memory Farms. I tend to agree. I mean, I love basketball, right? So I'm gonna get it. I'll get it when it goes on sale for $8 because all the reviews are terrible. But yeah, it is pretty. It's pretty bad. Every game is just like, how did you guys not improve this? All of the slides but yours, Pirate, are one. Just so you're aware. How much should a new game cost? That's actually a good point, because I think it comes down to like replayability, right? Because I don't think that $100 is insane to play for a game, assuming that it's good. What did I pay for Baldur's Gate? 70? I think the base game was 60 and I bought the DLC for $10. That's a good deal, right? Because that's at 70. Once you pass 70 hours, you're under $1 an hour for what you've paid for the game. So, and I've got like probably double that play time on Baldur's Gate 3, and I'll probably play it for another 3-4 years. And who knows, if they don't make more and they just like keep adding to it, they could just do GTA and I just play that game for the next decade. So I think that the problem with it is these AAA games have gotten to a place where they rely on their namesake. 2K is a perfect example of that, where just the audacity that they have to every year come out and they're like, all right, here's the new game. It's got Kobe on it. It's going to be $120. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing that. And I'm sure that some people do because they like to be on like the forefront of that stuff. But I don't think $100 is crazy for a game in the modern era. Because again, like coming off the back of what we were just talking about, like $100 for a game back in the day is kind of crazy because you don't even know how good the game is. Certainly how long you'll replay it. At least with something like Baldur's Gate 3 or a 2K or a Cyberpunk or a No Man's Sky or what's the new one everybody's playing? Helldivers. You can keep that going because of the internet. You could just keep adding to it. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, what do you think a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 is worth? Just in the sense of how valuable and good the game is. Justin and I were talking about that game the other day. So good. One of the better games, I think, all time. What do you think that game's worth? I think it's all kind of relative. But I will say, just in general, I think people charge too much for games. Just kind of across the board. 600 hours of BG3. Yo, that's crazy. So you're running on like what? 10 cents an hour for your value for it, for the cost. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of comparing the cost to the value, just like anything else. Do I think 2K is worth $100? No, I don't think it ever was. But Baldur's Gate 3 worth $70? Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on. Got to keep going because I tend to ramble. Thank you for the question, Chris. We've got another question from Chris, as we said. So Chris asks, dice stacking, drawing doodles, scrolling memes, etc. Where do you draw the line between common fidgeting and being disrespectful? Thank you for the question, Chris. This is a great one for me because I have a whole ADHD brain going on. So feel free to voice your opinions in the comments about your thoughts on just general fidgeting at the table. So for this, I think it comes down to paying attention and participating. As someone with ADHD, I find myself often doing stuff like stacking dice. I try to avoid being on the phone if I can, just because I know myself, and it's like if I have the phone on me, I'm probably going to be using it. And if I do use the phone, I try to like keep it limited to game relevant stuff. So either if I have like a virtual, like if I have a character sheet on my phone, or if I'm like looking up a rule or something. Because I do think it can be a little disrespectful to be on the phone if you're not using it for something that's directly related to the game. And not just to the DM, right, who's like presenting the world, but also to the other people at the table, because, you know, most downtime is in waiting for other players to take their turns and or for the DM to unfold the story. Either way, you should probably be paying attention in both of those scenarios. It's harder with combat just because some people take really long on their turns and a lot of combat is just kind of basic. But in general, you should be aware of what your other, what the other players at the table are doing so that it can guide your decision making. And you definitely should be paying attention to what DM's talking about because DM's giving you the whole story. It's the reason that you're there. So you should probably be paying attention, not only so you know what everyone is doing, but so you can use that info to make your own decisions. Scrolling memes. I mean, I scroll memes when I'm like waiting in line at the bank. If you're scrolling memes in the middle of your D&D campaign, you might not be as invested in the campaign as you thought. And it comes back to like expectations and goals. I think overall, as long as your behavior isn't disruptive for the DM or the other players, you're probably good. Dice stacking, I feel like, is one of those where it's just like almost necessary. Like I feel like that's a thing that everybody does. But again, it depends on what you're doing. Sometimes it can be that Sometimes it could be a situation where you're avoiding meta by just doing something like that. Like you can afford to kind of play because right now the DM is doing some RP with one of your players, one of your party members who's not near you, right? So your character doesn't know what's going on there anyway. So that's a perfect time. That's what you need to do is strategic fidgeting. That's what you need because that's a time where you really shouldn't be paying attention to what's going on there because you don't technically know if you're not there and you can't hear it. So, let's see. What's chat saying? If your fidgeting doesn't distract the rest of the table, you can still pay attention. You're good. 8 out of 2 players would always been on their phones. If I ran a game again, I'd say no phones or phones only for emergencies or looking up game rules. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm like a dog looking at a squirrel when it comes to my ability to focus and just my attention span. So as a result, I try and make sure to limit myself in things just because I know, it's why I don't gamble. It's why I don't go to like casinos because I know me and that won't end well. So when it comes to like focus and stuff, like I said, I try and avoid my phone unless I absolutely have to use it. Let's see, almost 1,500 hours in Forza. Yo, that's crazy. If your character isn't involved in a scene, I think it's fine to be on your phone as long as you're listening when you become relevant again. After figuring out what I'm going to do with options based on what others do, you tend to doodle basic map ideas. Yeah, doodling seems like a non-issue. Because that's a thing that you could still listen to like while you're doing. Again, as long as it's not like distracting other people. And it's, don't make others explain to you what your character should know if it's preventable. Yeah, that's a really great way to put it, Flat. That's a great succinct way to do it. Like, you should know what's going on with your character. And if you don't, probably maybe got to pay attention better. So, dice stacking, fine. Repetitive, unnecessary dice rolling. Oh, yeah. That would get on my nerves after a while. Physical banks with lines of people is still a thing. Oh, yeah. In Clay County, Florida, it is. Duval County, Florida, it is. Northeast Florida in general. Doodling could be good for your brain. Yeah, probably. But yeah, like I said, so I don't think that if, as long as it's not like really interfering with things, and you can tell if it's interfering with things, either, hopefully somebody at the table would voice their opposition to it, or if you don't know what's going on. And I've been that guy a number of times where, whether it was Ethan or Posey or whoever was DMing, that where, I wouldn't be fully paying attention, and then they would be like, well, what just happened? And I'd be like, I don't know. And it would, but that's important because that's a moment for me to be like, all right, I need to focus. I need to really pay attention to what's going on and like actively listen and engage. You should be, again, expectations. That's the whole reason everybody's here. You should at least appear to be invested in what's going on. You were here earlier than dinner struck. Hey, Kirk, what's going on? Fidgeting could also lead to cheating, especially when people are fidgeting with their dice or rolling them out of turn, so to speak. Oh, interesting. How many times in GM roll you want group to turn right and they turn left? Every time. That's the answer to that. If you want them to turn left, try and make them turn right. That's what I've found in my experience. So we answered that one. That's a good one. Strategic fidgeting. That's what you should aim for, in my estimation. So thank you for the question, Chris. The next question, of course, is from Chris, and Chris asks, if time froze for 24 hours and you were the only one who could move, what would you do with that time? Oh, man. I have kind of a boring answer for this. Well, that's not true. Half of it's boring, and then half of it is, we'll just see. Everybody, so what would you do, folks, in chat, if time froze for 24 hours? I thought about this for a while, and I don't know if I would do much of anything. Knowing me, I'd probably just, enjoy the peace and quiet and get lots of work done. But driving around without traffic would be nice. But then again, if time is just frozen, then there's probably still lots of cars out on the road. So you'd still have to navigate around. I'm seeing a lot of people say sleep. Whoa. Yeah, I feel that. I took a nap today, actually, which is a rarity. And I kind of feel a little bit more rested, to be honest. So yeah, sleep might be a move. That's a good answer. So, I might... I'm with you, Chris. I might head down to the bank for a few withdrawals. Listen, not that I would ever advocate theft, but it is worth pointing out that most banks are insured. So the cash is, probably can be tracked, and, maybe you could launder the money through another bank or something. That'd be really interesting. But yeah, it's probably not a good idea to rob the bank, whether time is frozen or not. But I originally thought of that and thought, well, there's cameras. But if time is frozen, then it'll be like it never happened. You know what I mean? If everything is froze, you might not get in. That's true. That's a good point. Doubt I would know. It would only last for 24 hours. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, too. That seems to be a clarifying question. Would you know? Would you know? You would have to, right? If you wanted to maximize your time. I'll say this. I'd be way more likely to do things to my personal benefit if I knew that I had 24 hours than if time just froze. And because think about it, if you didn't know, there's also a specifying question as to if you knew it was going to happen, when it started. Because I'm also the type of person who that would happen and I would just be working, and then I wouldn't realize that time had stopped for until I was 6 or 7 hours into the into the time. And then it's oh, well, now I only have, 18 hours or whatever it is. Are you the only one who isn't frozen? Yeah, I assume so. A casino if you can get to one. That's that. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, probably be pretty easy to travel. I could just take 95 up to like Atlantic City without any traffic at all. 0% traffic. But again, you still have to like navigate in between cars, so that actually might take longer. Who's flying the plane? I'm not taking a plane. Do you know it's frozen for 24 hours? Would it be bad if it unfroze? Yeah, it'd be pretty bad if it unfroze when you're in the middle of like robbing the bank. Maximize the time. As old as you're thinking about how many pillows to use. Yeah, I'm actually kind of astonished how many people said sleep. That's just, if that goes to show you, puts a finger on the pulse of America right now. Everybody's just like working and tired. They said time froze, not people. So it's just like everyone's watch was broken. That's true. I guess that's a point. Well, then what would that accomplish anyway? That would actually annoy the hell out of me. If it was just like time froze, you got to wait 24 hours and then the time can begin passing again. That'd be annoying. Sleep is the best answer. Yeah, probably. It sounds like it. Seems to be the overarching theme from people. With the casino, you could just oh, that's true. That's true. Skydiving, I was wondering who's flying the plane and how's the plane off. Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, you could just, well, at that point, it'd be like base jumping, right? We're in Florida now. Not in Jacksonville. Sarasota. Oh, okay. Wow. Welcome. Man, the weather's been a nightmare this last week or so. I've been, if it's not 100 degrees, it's torrential downpour rain. So that's summer storms for you. Time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubtly so. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, there's, like I said, from the beginning, I probably would just work. I probably would just be like, this is great. I would do stuff like make the basketball for nerds video. I would do projects that I don't normally have enough time for. So, oh, Bardgo, nice. All right, so thanks for the question. That was a cool one. That was fun. This next one is also from Chris. We've got 3 more, and then we'll do a little chat. Chris asks, another AI question. Oh, I like these. What are your thoughts on DMs using AI to create NPCs and suggest plot hooks? Is it utilizing a tool or being lazy? Thank you for the question, Chris. I think anyone here that knows me or has heard me speak about AI in the past knows that I've always considered it a tool, AI just in general, AI, and I've only ever treated it as such. In my opinion, I don't think AI is doing anything that you couldn't do yourself. It's just doing it more quickly and efficiently. I'm sure, I've said before, I'm sure that when the camera came out, there were a lot of painters that were like, this is ridiculous. This doesn't take any skill. You're just pressing a button and it captures the whole image. And obviously now we know that photography is like a super dense art form, right? So there was just a change in medium there, and that happens all the time. So, for example, if you were looking for inspiration for an NPC or for a plot hook, you could manually scourge the internet for books, shows, movies, music that could give you ideas for content. You could you could go watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy and as an inspiration for content. And the only difference between doing that and asking ChatGPT is 25 hours or however long the trilogy is, right? I use Photoshop's generative AI feature on a regular basis to complete images or to remove things from images. Now, could I complete these images or remove things manually? Sure. It just would take a lot more time and effort on my part. There's a piece of music technology made by a company called Voclia, and it's a little microphone called the Doubler. Basically, the way that it works is it translates audio input directly into MIDI. So, for example, you could beatbox directly into the microphone, and that beatboxing would then be musically annotated directly into MIDI, directly into musical instruments. This is like this was the thing that I imagined as a kid, thinking like, oh man, you know, I don't want to take all the time to learn guitar. Wouldn't it be great if I could just like, you know, if somebody could just record my voice and I could just hum the tune and then it could come out as a guitar? Well, we can do that now with stuff like this. So some people might call that process lazy. Could I go out and learn the instruments and then write the music and produce it and record it myself? Sure, but it would take a lot longer and it would take a lot more effort. For me, the point of art has always been about the final product rather than how it got there. So when people are looking at like the Sistine Chapel, I doubt people wonder about where Michelangelo procured his paints or, you know, where they were sourced. I doubt seriously that when people are looking at that ceiling, they're arguing about which parts his assistants were responsible for and which pieces he did directly. I mean, maybe they are, but I think that what matters is the final product. And similarly with D&D, the DM still has to set the scene, do the voices, roll the dice, you know, create the story. Obviously, I think the DM should try and intersperse their own content and ideas, and they probably will. The AI just helps make their job a little easier and a little less time consuming. So that's where I am in that. Let me see what people in chat are saying. So it's not hot with the storms. Oh, it's hot. It's just storming too. I've used AI to inspire me in writing homebrew class stuff. Feeling that I'll eventually participate in a full campaign entirely DM'd by AI within the next decade. Yeah, I think we all will. And why wouldn't you? You know, it's just a different experience. We'd have to edit it, so there would still be work. Basically, you would be more of an editor, but it's a tool. If it's a tool, yeah. But see, and I think that my point is that we're all editors anyway, right? Like, there's no. It's spoken about how there are only 7 stories. You know, there's no, you know, new real new ideas under the sun. As much as just we kind of put a spin on something that was a spin-off of something that was a spin-off of something. We already do that manually. That's what's a trip about AI. People are like, oh, AI, this just, you know, you're just going to use computers. It's like, hey, man, your brain, it's a computer. It's the same. It's obviously biologically different, but functionally, it's the same. We're all born, right? Little B-bois, we can't do anything. We can't speak. And input is just given to us. And that input shapes who we are. And that's just what it is. You are a collection of your own input throughout your experiences through life, which is why we're all so different. Our brains are doing what the AI is doing. It's the same thing. So for me, it doesn't cheapen it if I ask ChatGPT, hey, give me ideas, instead of me just sitting here for 4 hours thinking of ideas and coming up with the same 10. It's just like, what are we doing? What's the ultimate goal? To produce the thing? Okay, well then produce the thing. Doing our own web or library searches takes longer, but it's much more intelligently done. AI is dumb at its searching. It seems smart because it's so fast. Yeah. It's really not that, like, that's the thing, too, that's frustrating, is people are like, oh, so you just do. And it's like, you have never even used tools before, clearly, because it is not that easy. In order to get these kind of images out of these image generators and just in general to get good, reliable information from AI, it's not there yet. It definitely will be soon, but it's not as easy as just like putting in numbers and putting in words and then it makes this whole thing. People are putting work into these projects. Lord of the Rings, 9 hours, 11 for extended. So some AI equals a tool, use it or don't, your choice. 100%, and it's just like anything else. It's like, oh, if you want to make images, but you don't want to be a photographer, then just be a painter. There are still painters, even though cameras exist. And so will there still exist all kinds of artists, regardless of whether AI is there. No, the brain is functionally much deeper and broader than any computer. Right, now, for sure. There's only ever been one thief in the world. Everyone else is just trying to get their stuff back. That's interesting. As long as the OC gets credited and paid. Yeah, and again, it's also about fair use, too. It's about what's the difference between looking at an image and being inspired to use that shade of blue and an AI, having that in there. But these are all questions that are much higher than my pay grade when it comes to the legality of things. And I think a lot of those things will be decided in the coming years. Certainly, we're in the midst of Universal Music Group and these companies going after these AI music generators for the same thing. I don't think it's going to go that well for them, to be honest, because it's going to be the same kind of conversation as the Vanilla Ice using the under pressure beat. It's the literal argument is, well, it's not dum dum dun 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 dun. It's dun 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 dun. So it's different, and they won that, by the way. And that's what these AI companies are going to say, and they'll probably win. So, if you put effort into it, I think that it's art. And, whether or not we agree on what takes effort, that's a different conversation. So, all right, we've got 2 more questions. And they're both from Chris, as we've said. So, Chris asks, assuming that real life works like D&D and you can hire others to do tasks you don't want to otherwise or you don't want to or otherwise can't do, what's the smallest thing you would hire someone to do? Wow, thank you for the question, Chris. Technically speaking, this is how real life works. It's just that most of us aren't rich. So we don't know what that experience is like. Hiring somebody to do small tasks is like actually a reality for people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. If I'm hiring somebody to do small things, it implies that I've got lots of extra money just sitting around, which is definitely an exercise in fantasy, but let's do it. All that said, if I could hire to do someone to do tasks that are relatively small, it would be things like taking the trash down to the curb or editing the podcast, maybe going to pick up groceries, just small little things. But then again, it would be much better if a robot could do it. That would be great. Until we send out a robot to view the universe, self equals human. Only humans can own things. Quote unquote. You missed this one. If you're looking for inspiration for an NPC, can't you just ask the bard to cast mass inspiration? Yes. TaskRabbit. Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't have a whole bunch of money sitting around to just pay people to do stuff. I see cleaning in all caps. Yeah, any of the little like general day-to-day clean stuff is definitely annoying. Wouldn't know I'm usually the one doing said tasks. Yeah, same. That's the thing. I'd really have to like sit down and think about it. Hiring somebody to do gardening is worth every penny, or so says my aching weed pulling back. I'm a chef. I cook people a meal all the time. Sort out my Lego. That would probably be the job I would create. Oh, yeah. You got a bunch of Lego? I don't know if I think I still have a box somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I got rid of them. Pay someone to sleep for me if you could somehow transfer that rest into my body. Oh, I've had fantasies about if I could clone myself. That would be amazing. If I could just have a version of myself that just kind of like sat here and just did creative stuff, and then another version of myself that could go out and work like a 9-to-5 job and then also do all the stuff around the house, like the yard and stuff. That would be great. Although I imagine that eventually that one that does all of the hard, annoying, not fun stuff would grow to resent the one that's creative. So we'd have to come up with some sort of a schedule where I keep it fair, you know? Mosquitoes. In life, do things you enjoy. Gardening, I enjoy that if you have the time and money to do it. Yeah, gardening's definitely one of those things. You also have to have, like, you have to be incredibly patient to be into gardening. It's a thing that takes, like, a soft touch. Imagine clones arguing about who does what. Yeah, for sure. We would definitely, I would definitely want to keep it fair, where there was enough of a switch out. But it would just be nice to know that while I was here doing creative stuff, I was also out doing something else that was productive. So that's what I would do. If one does creative and other makes all the house stuff, then what would you do? Well, we'll just have to we'll have to have a schedule and work it out such that it's fair, and that each of us gets, like, you know, ample vacation time from whatever it is they're doing. All right, we got one last question, and then we'll do a little chat before we get out of here. So the last question is from Chris. And I appreciate, again, Chris, all of these questions you always submit. thoughtful and also multiple questions in your email. So I really appreciate it. And that's just a reminder to everybody, please send questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. This last one is from Chris. We'll talk about that, and we'll do a little chat and then get out of here. Chris asks, girlfriend and I just bought one of those DNA test kits that will tell us our genetic makeup. Have you ever taken one or otherwise know where your lineage is from? Thank you for the question, Chris. Yes, I do have this info. So I did do the DNA thing. I've actually done it with both 23andMe and Ancestry. And according to 23andMe, now the results are slightly different. Relatively the same, but it's interesting to me that they're a little different. So according to 23andMe, I'm mostly Northwestern European. I'm 78% British and Irish, 11% French and German, about 3% Scandinavian, 0.5% Southern European, the 1% Sub-Saharan African, back to Nigeria, Congo, Angola. We all have that. Ancestry paints a slightly different picture. According to them, I'm 40% English and Northwestern European, 26% Scottish, 15% Swedish and Danish, 9% Welsh, 5% Norwegian, 4% Irish, and then the 1% Sub-Saharan, Cameroon, Congo, Western Bantu, Africa. As for the lineage, because I know that you had mentioned that I think that you've got your lineage goes back to like Robert the Bruce, which is super cool. We have not completed going all the way back as far as we can go. Maybe I know that my cousin has been tracing our family history back for the last year or so, and I dabble in it when I can, if I can remember to like, oh yeah, I should hop in there and like, look into that. I know at least one of our lines goes all the way back to like 16th century Ireland, and the only quote-unquote famous person that I know for sure that I have that I trace back to is this guy named Roswell King. He's my 5th great-grandfather, and it's kind of an interesting guy, I suppose. And that's all I know, but the lineage thing is kind of a thing that we've been looking into and unraveling. So, not interested in giving your DNA to a corporation so they could profit off it while you pay for the privilege. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, somebody's profiting off of you somewhere at any point. It's a non-concern for me, honestly. It's just like, whatever. You want to have my DNA? Go for it. Scotch, German, English, Irish here. Oh, I don't remember what that is, Pirate. I have to look into it. 50% Italian, 25% German, rest European. Your dad was Superman, so you're half Kryptonian. Sir Walter Raleigh, that's cool. Your brother did the National Geographic test, and he was so excited to learn he has a higher percentage of Neanderthal DNA than other people. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. The other thing, too, is, like, I don't know how accurate that stuff is. Like, I'm not educated enough to know what methods they use and how all of that stuff works, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I used to joke when I first got the results, I used to joke with people, I'm the whitest kid you know. Because I'm like, I'm upwards of like 2/3 just European, just like British, Irish, maybe Welsh, and there's a little bit of French in there. My brother did that. Turns out our English parents have a lot of Viking in them. Yeah, I think that my grandfather, that's where the Norwegian stuff comes from his side. 1599 Bern, Switzerland. That's really cool. Contributing to genetic patents. Heck yeah. Aren't we all already? You know what I mean? Yeah, I'll have to check again on that question in the Discord. I don't know how I missed that. But yeah, we're here in chat. So we could talk about anything. Let's talk about good things of the week. My good stuff of the week, I've been working on my certification classes. Those have been going pretty well. Some stuff I understand better than others, but thankfully I've got a network of people who are kind enough to contribute their knowledge. So I should, I'm still confident that I'll be able to finish it. You're sure you're fine with whatever they do with your DNA? Yeah, for sure. If they make several clones of me and force them to grow up training to be in a Korean pop idol group, listen, my DNA is not gonna be good. It's not gonna be helpful for if they want to make a pop group. Start doing designer genetics. Will that mess up? Well, we're already doing it. They're already doing that stuff with like CRISPR. That's totally already a thing. You could just send them $100 and they'll just send you a kit that'll allow you to edit your DNA. Certification for IT. So I'm getting my A+ certification. I'm in the middle of that. I plan on getting my security after that, but at the moment I'm just going for A+. French, German. Good thing of the week, got a new kitten last week and she's adjusting. Oh, that's nice. That's fun. Got to go to a Styx and Foreigner concert. Oh, yeah, I saw pictures of that. That's really cool. Styx and Foreigner, that must have been a huge... That must have been a blast. Yes. Yeah, it's been pretty easy. Some of the stuff is like a little intimidating when it comes to like... Some stuff when it comes to Wi-Fi is like, I don't know, it's just dense. I think I'll be okay. Do I like IT, creative stuff, or they're just different? They're just different. I think IT's fun. I think in the sense of like puzzle solving almost. I do kind of like it. I'm surprised at how much I like it, and am kind of annoyed that it's taken me to this stage in life to do it. I wish that I would have just done this when I was 20, you know? But it's just kind of a different thing. It just flexes a different part of the mind, a different part of my processor. Good thing you made it up to the UP. Oh, that's cool. World Can Affair this weekend in Gilbert, Pennsylvania. First night in new trailer. After nearly 40 years in IT, you're ready to set down the keyboard and start writing full time. Oh, nice. That's great, Kirk. Well, that'll be fun. Good thing for the week, your grandson's coming to visit. Summer vacation for 5 weeks. Oh, that's really cool. I used to do that when I was a kid. I used to come home to Florida for the summers when we lived in Oklahoma. And my mother was going to law school when it was time for finals and midterms and stuff. I'd usually come down for a few weeks and spend the summer in Florida. Problem-solving DM for sure. Yeah, it is very much just that. It's just like you're presented with... It is kind of a TTRPG in that way, like D&D-esque in the sense of just like you're presented with whatever it is, and then you got to solve the issue. Ruby and Ron, you traveled through Canada and Niagara Falls. I went to Niagara Falls when I was a kid. Not the best week to be in the IT crowd with the CrowdStrike incident. Yes, true, but good time to be getting into the IFT field when it comes to security, right? And I think just in general, you know, I think that having a working understanding of computers and how they work and their programs and stuff, I think is going to become more and more important as these things like AI get implemented into these businesses. So, 40 years of knowing Ron. What else is going on? We're kicking everybody's butt in the Olympics in basketball. That's been pretty cool. And the team nominated LeBron to be the flag bearer. He's the GOAT. Oh, man. And football is like next week. Are you kidding me? I can't believe it. Football, we're less than a week out. I mean, granted, it's only the preseason that starts on the 1st, but football's coming. I can't believe it. I think a lot of systems in America are out of date, so they need help. Yeah, most definitely. Any more on the novel? No, I haven't gotten any more done. I tend to do that with projects where I'll put a lot of effort and energy into them for a while, and then it'll just kind of... That's a back burner one, though. It's still something that I want to do. It's just a matter of when I have time to do it. And especially now with doing school, I've got less and less time. See, they're making it harder to find out who's AI on social media now. Yeah, that's tough. You can't trust anybody on the computer. Just as a general rule. Will Florida Amendment 3 legalization initiative stay on the ballot this year, and what do you think will become of it? I don't think it'll pass if it's on the ballot. I think that, with us in Florida, we've got to pass stuff by like 60%, and I just don't see that happening. I know that our governor and a lot of his people are super against it, and I think a lot of his voters are super against it. So assuming that it's even on the ballot, I don't think it'll pass. And listen, maybe I'll be shocked. I would love to be. I would love to be surprised. I would love to, at Thanksgiving, be like, "Wow, I can't believe it. We passed it." But I just don't want to get my hopes up about it because it took us 3 cycles to get medical here, and I will say that I've heard, and I don't know how true this is, but I've heard that even if they recreationalize it, those of us that have medicinal cards will still be able to purchase it without tax, which is really nice. But yeah, I don't think it's passing. Less than a week till we enter the last third of the year. Oh, jeez. ChatGPT's introducing a hierarchy of instructions, so you can't tell bots to forget previous instructions. Well, yeah. There are instantaneous video deepfakes now. You can still store to tell. Yeah, it's pretty soon we won't be able to tell the difference. And I think that like software that distinguishes that is going to become the next huge industry. Bunch of new Netflix shows dropped. Your Honor. Yeah, Your Honor's really, really great. I'm almost done with that completely, actually. I have one more episode. That show is fantastic. I kind of kicked myself for taking so long to watch it, but I'm really glad I did because it's really, really good. Passed in Ohio. Nice. Yeah, it's really crazy. There's a lot of people who are really, really unhappy, I think, in general. And they just take that out. They take it out on people with bad political takes. You know, I don't think that there's anything wrong with recreationalizing marijuana, cannabis, as it were. Getting closer every day to the dead internet theory becoming a reality. You think so? You think the internet's dead? I don't know. I don't think so. So, probably plays that. Yeah, probably. Has anyone used ChatGPT to have a conversation with ChatGPT? Oh yeah. Well, wasn't it a couple years ago that was it the one that it was either the one that Google or Facebook was working on, but the AI like spontaneously was speaking to each other. They had to unplug it. I mean, that stuff's coming down the pipeline, folks. We're gonna have to deal with it. Yeah, Your Honor is really great. Haven't used ChatGPT. Yeah. It's you know, it's just a tool. It isn't any different, I don't think. Most interaction you have online with bots. Well, I mean, that depends on what you're doing online, right? It's like those people on TikTok that are like, why are there all these videos all over my... And it's like, well, because that's what you want to look at. That's how TikTok works. Like, if you're seeing a bunch of a certain thing and you don't want to see it, stop engaging with whatever that thing is, because the only reason that you're seeing it is because you engage in it. That's how the algorithm works. I think the same thing would go along with the dead internet theory of like, oh, well, you know, most people that you talk to are bots. And it's like, well, who are you talking to? Because most people that I talk to online are either people that I know through things like this podcast or people that I'm friends with in real life. People that I've actually like interfaced with. What are you doing? Are you engaging in like arguments or like political discourse? Because you'll probably end up talking to a lot of bots that way. What's Your Honor about? It's a crime story. It's a crime drama with Bryan Cranston and a lot of other really great classes. So, remember they had 2 AIs talking to each other and they just ended up screaming. Would a bot girlfriend be better than a real one? No. What? Probably not. Well, maybe for some people. I don't know. Okay, yeah, you're right. We got to get out of here. All right, so thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Before we get out of here, as we do, we like to remind everybody again of the email for the show, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. Please send all questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get some merch, you can do so over at manshorts.com, or you can go over to krakendice.com. Remember, we've got the Kraken. Oh, no, not them. Not the VanBard, although that's coming. It's just another little quick thing. You got the dice, the Florida Man dice over at krakendice.com. You can go get yourself those. Let's see, what else? If you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Thanks again to everybody for joining us. There's a link to the Discord in the chat. And just to remind everybody to please like, comment, subscribe. Thanks again to all of our patrons, members, and super chatters. The audio for this podcast will be made available tomorrow at 12 noon. We will be back next week, same bar time, same bar channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Mann Shorts YouTube channel. I hope that everybody has a fantastic evening and a great weekend and an even better week, and we will see you next time.